Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Dimitri Johnson, and you're listening to MMALatestNews.com.
It's time to roll, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to MMA Latest. Today, I'm joined by Gary, and we're going to try something a little bit different. So we're going to take a look at some of the fights that are on this weekend, so that aren't UFC or Cage Warriors. We're going to do set previews for them, and we're going to look at some of the fights to watch in those cards. So we've got the likes of Bellator, we've got the likes of UAE Warriors, we've got Brave, Titan, Infusion, Babylon. We've got a lot of fights. Gary, what are you thinking? What's the ones to watch?
Yeah, there's loads of really good fights over this. The first one we'll kick off with, because it is the first card that we're going to be faced with, is from Brave CF42, and that is Jose Shorty Torres versus Sean Santella, and he is also called Shorty Rock, so that's why I stumbled there. The nicknames are getting out with these two, they're so similar with each other. But yeah, what do you think of this fight? Because this is going to be an absolute banger.
Yeah, funny. This is probably going to be it's probably going to be the best of our list, I'd say. So it's a good one to get kicked off with. Yeah, I love it. So you got like Shorty Torres, who's probably let go from the UFC a little bit too early. Like he got one loss to Perez.
1-1. How's the start at 1-1? That's the most ridiculous release I've ever seen.
He's got he's the IMF World Champion. He two-weight class champion, or in two-division champion, in Titan FC, and he's a flyweight. The flyweights are so hard to come across that it's like, why you
they did that purge through the flyweight division, and loads of people got let go. They came down to a top 10, and then just started signing people again. And for a good example of how ridiculous this was is, since he's been fighting for Brave, Jose Torres beat Amir Albazi in Brave, and now Amir Albazi is looking like a big deal in UFC. He's on a little win streak. Everybody's really impressed by him. So how is Jose Torres not good enough for the UFC then, if he's beating guys that are currently contenders?
It's genuinely beyond. I think we talked about this last night too. It's weird because he's probably one of the brighter prospects in terms of like flyweights, be it bantamweight as well actually, but mainly flyweight, especially because this is going to be a flyweight fight in that flyweight tournament that Brave are having. Looks pretty good. But what about Santella? How are you feeling about that?
Well, I've got a couple of stats down that I wrote down, so some things are really impressive. He's a 3-time Cage Fury Fighting champion. He's won that title. He's bounced about other places, so he's came back to them, fought back for that, won the interim title and stuff. He's also won the V3 Fights Championship and the PA Cage Fight Championship, so he's winning titles everywhere he goes. And then his opponent's combined record, this was the one that I kind of was taking notice of, so I wrote it down, are 207 wins and 83 losses. So his opponents since the get-go, usually when you see guys at this sort of level, you look through the record and it might be, they've got like 7 wins and 23 losses. Meanwhile, he's fighting here, all of his opponents have amazing records, and he's 23-7-1 himself. How often do we see guys this experienced at this level, Kula?
Especially at flyweight. Like flyweights, it seems to be kind of an area that's kind of hard to get fights. So yeah, that's what makes this one kind of stand out so much, because it's such a high level one. In terms of how this one goes, what do you think? Think it's going to be more of a stand-up grappling? I'm thinking going to be more of a grappling.
Both guys know everything. That's the thing about it. They've got so much experience and really can do it all. And something just since I ran up the stats of Sean Santella before, the one that kind of gets dropped off from Jose Torres at times is that he won the IMAF 2 years in a row. I think it was 2014, 2015, or maybe it was 15, 16. But he's won that as an amateur as well. So that sort of level of experience for both of these guys, it's just insane. So I think whether it's going to be striking, whether it's going to be grappling, I think both guys are going to be completely capable. So it could kind of spill anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see what you mean. I feel like Santella's more of a grappler. He's more of a grappler. Like his stats kind of show it. He loves to grapple. And then you have Torres. I know you're saying he was in the IMAFs. He had a lot of experience, and he had that. He had a good run at IMAF as well. And he's had an amazing run as a pro as well. He's been incredible. I think he's probably got the better striking of the two. He seems to be, although he's younger and has less experience as a pro, he's probably a bit better on the feet. But I'd say on the ground, he might maybe not struggle, but I'd say he might be at a little bit of a disadvantage considering how good Santella is. But in saying that, you never really know how this is going to go. But it looks like a pretty solid fight.
it might be one of those cases that if Santella can take it down enough now that that's in Torres' head, it turns into a Santella fight where he's striking and winning that. And also something to point out is this is part of a flyweight tournament that's going on in Brave right now. I'm not entirely sure how they're working it because there's 3 different flyweight fights as part of this tournament. So I'm not sure how you're working with 3 people go through it the next round. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there's going to be another fight in another card. Obviously, COVID's happening. Who knows what's happening with arranging fights and stuff? But yeah, there's a couple of good guys in that tournament. I know Zach Mikovsky's one that people might know off the top of their head from his UFC run. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where these guys go next. But definitely, I'm surprised these guys got matched against each other first round because this is going to be the pinnacle of that sort of division, I think.
I agree. It's probably only this. Realistically, I think whoever wins this fight is probably going to win the entire tournament. Realistically, because they're probably the most high level of the lot. But away from that one, I'm going to throw one at you there from Brave as well. Probably just maybe not as good of a fight, but the hype isn't as good for the fight. Excuse me, but more of a Rolando D and Magic Man is what I call him because that second name is quite the mouthful. I do struggle with Polish names. I don't want to botch it. That one I feel like is going to be.
I've been looking at it over and over, just saying it over and over, and I'm like, I've got this in my head. It's going to come out of my mouth, and I'm going to completely mess it up. But we'll see when I get the confidence to chance it in a minute. I wasn't actually put onto this fight before. This kind of fell under the radar for me. But you were telling me this one is most likely guaranteed to be a banger.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I think I remember when Rolando Diaz, he's from the Philippines, but I remember when he signed for the UFC, it kind of came out of nowhere. And I remember I spoke to him before the fights, and he was like, he's a really excited type of guy, and he loves to stand and train. You can tell he loves just to strike, and he's a son of Rolando Navarrete, the Filipino boxer as well. So he's kind of got that boxing background in terms of like from when he was younger, and then you can just see it in MMA as well. He's got very good striking. You're not really seeing him much on the floor or on the mat, but he's been solid now. I have actually enjoyed him. He was the UAE champion before this as well. The man he's got serious power. Like he can knock you out. But then on the other hand, you got Magic. I'm gonna call him Magic Man from Northern Ireland, and he's been from Poland fighting out Northern Ireland. He's just been phenomenal and brave ever since coming in. I think he had that one loss, but he's knocked out Keane Cowley. He's been in some great fights, just back and forth fights constantly. So he's been a real prospect that I think that is going to make this fight an absolute war. He loves to strike as well, so I don't think anyone's going to go to the floor in this.
Yeah, that's something I wrote down about him before this, is every single fight he's had of his 7 wins, 5 losses, every single fight has ended in stoppage, and only 2 of those fights have went out of the first round.
He's
so
crazy.
Every single, 13 or 12 fights, 10 of those fights have finished in the first round. Whether that was a winner or a loss, it was still a banger for the time it was going.
It's funny, because if you look at his records for both of these guys, actually, if you look at their Maciek in particular here, he's kind of I think he's 7-5, but it's so deceptive. Like realistically, he's not fought easy fights. He's gone in there and he's actually competed with really good guys each time. And Brave don't seem to be kind of hanging around and giving him guys who are pretty good as well. Like that Keane Cowley fight, I thought Keane Cowley's gonna win, and then he stopped Keane Cowley. I was like, wow, you just TKO'd or KO'd a strike, like one of the most high level strikers around. It's amazing to see. So yeah, I can kind of see this one being an absolute banger. Probably a fight of the night, potential for Brave.
You mentioned Keane Cowley there. He's also got Justin Burlinston, who's kind of making a lot of waves these days, and John Bruin, who I wouldn't know too much about, but I know he's one of the sort of top guys at Brave. But then you look at that experience of Rolando D since he's been fighting in UFC. He's shared the cage with the likes of Alex Caceres, Ev Ting, Tavaro Ishihara, Shane Young. So he's fought guys that everyone sort of knows if you're a UFC fan. I think the thing that I pointed out or stuck out to me the most about this was the Rolando Diaz fought as low as bantamweight before. And if I'm right, this one's going to be a lightweight fight. So the fact that there's going to be that, I don't think Magic can get down to bantamweight anytime soon. So I think there might be a size difference when we come into this one. It's the type of thing you're probably only going to see until you're looking at them actually in the fight and actually in the event itself. But I think there could be a size difference. And I don't know if I'd like to be Rolando D standing in front of a bigger man who's going to come at you like a Mack truck.
True. Yeah, it'll be a test and a half for sure. I'm surprised I didn't see him go up there because he was the UAE. Because I think he was the featherweight champion for UAE Warriors. That's actually also on this. Is it the same day or the day after, the following day? And he's got heavy hands. He's well able to stand, but like when you're moving up, when you're at lightweight and you're fighting a guy who's got this type of power, it's, you probably don't want to be the end of him, no, but you'd be very cautious when he's moving forward at you.
Well, they gave us the perfect segue there, because as he's been fighting in UAE Warriors, there's also a UAE Warriors card on Thursday as well. And we'll leave links to these sort of events, the ones that you're able to find and stuff like that, in the description below or the top comment. But the UAE Warriors fight, the main one that's this big, huge fight that I think no one is really giving respect to, is Islam Mamedov versus Kyung Pyo Kim. I think there's some good names in this one, so we're throwing these out here. You usually write these names down, so when you're actually saying them out loud. But yeah, what about Islam Mamedov?
Oh, he's incredible. I think when we were talking about this, I went back and watched some clips and one or two of his fights in PFL or back in the WSOF days as well, and he's just been incredible. Like, he mauls you. He's all over you. He's active. He's unbeaten since 2009. That's his second fight. He lost the second fight, hasn't lost since. It's been like nearly 11 years. He's not lost. He's beat the current lightweight champ for PFL, who's won it 2 years in the trot, Nathan Schulte. Once again, another one of these names. And he's undefeated in PFL. He had that draw which there's a little bit of a uncertain. We were a bit uncertain around, but besides that, he's been just incredible. And this is probably going to be like a ridiculous fight. I could probably see him winning it, but I hope it's going to be good. Kim is going to have to bring the fight to him in this one, I think.
Yeah, well, you're saying about that one we're uncertain about, just to sort of say what that is. Well, he's had some luck with these tournaments. So back in World Series of Fighting in 2015, he fought in their lightweight tournament where he couldn't continue after the first round because he got injuries out of it. So he got taken out, he got replaced again. Then he fought in the 2018 PFL tournament, and the exact same thing happened. Won the first round, ended up not being able to continue. Then he fought in the 2019 tournament, and he drew in the first round. And this was what we're a little bit unclear about, because I have tried to look it up and I couldn't find any clear details. I see some places saying that it went to a tiebreaker on the judges and they said they were actually going to give it to Islam Mamedov to go forward, but apparently he didn't go forward. So I'm not entirely too sure about that. But the man that's won those last two tournaments, the 2018, 2019, was, as you say, Nathan Schulte, or Schulte, whatever one it is. He's won both of them, and Islam Mamedov has beat him, has submitted him back in 2017. So we could be looking at a guy that realistically could have had $2 million in his bank account right now from those tournaments.
Oh, when you put it that way, it's fairly rough, isn't it?
Hopefully UAE Warriors has some lucrative contracts. He's going to need it after that sort of luck.
UAE is a pretty rich country, so you're going to hope that they're giving him some good money. Especially if I'm surprised he actually wasn't signed, because you know how a lot of PFL fighters actually trying to get out their contracts that are on. So I'm surprised he wasn't one that had difficulties. He must have been released. I need to figure that one out. But he's actually the fact that he's gotten out and is able to be active is probably a blessing, considering what's happened and how he missed out in those between injury and whatever happened in the last tournament. It was unfortunate, so at least he can get out and actually get paid and hopefully make up some of that millions that he potentially missed out on. Because realistically, I was looking at him, and even that finish, that ground and pound from the crucifix position he had, oh my god, that was amazing. Because of that, I think that he probably could have won that, and just going by history that he beat the current champ. But yeah, it's amazing. We're not really giving too much of a chance here.
As you were saying, he had a loss in his second fight. That's something. Lots of people have lost in their second fight. His second fight was against Alexander Sornavsky. So that's a guy that has went on to be. He just main evented ACA last on the other night. he's that good, then that was an absolute barn burner if anyone didn't see the ACA main event. But Sarnavsky's went on. He's had over like 40 fights in the last 10 years, being a star in Bellator and all sorts. So that was Islam Mamedov's second fight, and he's 18-1-1 now. Was a draw last time out. So, but then of course we will need to talk about Kim here because he's part of this fight. The thing that kind of stood out to me a bit is his entire career has taken place either in South Korea or East Asia, so he's not really had that same experience as Mamedov fighting in America, and now he's going to be fighting in UAE. And he was in his last fight, I believe it was, won the heat lightweight title, but heat versus PFL, not really the same level, a 9-2 record, and his whole game plan really is to work on the ground, and I don't know if I fancy his chances against Mamedov when it spills down there.
No, not at all. He's got 5 finishes from TKO, but I don't see when Mamedov comes at him and takes him down. I don't think he's going to be able to handle it. If he does, is the thing. It's one of those, it's those ifs. If he's able to, it's what could make this one really, really good. But having Mamedov alone is what's carrying this fight for one to watch, because he's just, I think he's so under the radar, and he's one that you could see in the UFC as well. I think he's only 30, so he's probably he's really one to watch, and he's what's kind of carrying this fight in for me. So I was looking it up and I was thinking, okay, what other fights do we have in this? And one that stood out to me because I posted about it on Twitter yesterday, and I was telling you because I was going on about the Scottish probably all for one entire day there, and the same day Steve Ray retired. So I was on about Casey O'Neill. So she's fighting that Stelia from the Greek girl. And that one we were looking at yesterday should probably be a good fight. Casey O'Neill probably carrying this one in terms of being the more favourable fighter to be watching. But it looks like a pretty good fight. What are you thinking?
Well, it's a Scottish person fighting on a foreign card, so you just need to make sure you're watching that because we don't have a lot of them these days. Obviously, I've just had my heart ripped out with Joanne Calderwood's title shot getting taken away, so we're all ahead on the Casey O'Neill stream train now. And so she's 4-0. The reason you've probably not heard of her as much is because she's been fighting over in Australia all of this time in Eternal MMA. Yeah, in Eternal MMA, she was the strawweight champion there, and she has moved up to flyweight. And I think the most impressive thing here is that she went over and spent a little bit of time and did a trial at Tiger Muay Thai. And if people don't know Tiger Muay Thai, that's where Valentina Shevchenko, Peter Yan, Mirbek Taisimov, striking coaches Rafael Fiziev, and obviously he's a superstar right now. So she went over, spent some time training with them for a tryout, and she actually got invited to go back there and train free for an entire year with that camp. So that's a camp that's one of the best in the world, especially you've got all these women. Valentina Shevchenko is the kingpin of that weight class that she's in, so she's got that experience. She's been training with the likes of Cynthia Calvillo, the name that I'm going to try and say, Loma Lukbunmi, the UFC fighter. So two people around her weight class, great fighters in the UFC. So the fact that she's 4-0, has that experience at training with these people, fighting against these every single day. How do you fancy that for her?
You kind of forget she's 20. Like she has all this experience. She's the 4 fights. She's got these experience of training with some of the best fighters in the world, really. And she's only 22. Like, she's got mountains of time to kind of build on that 4-0 record. Like, she'll probably, like, realistically, if she keeps this up, she'll most likely be in the UFC by maybe, give or take, 3 fights maybe. Considering how kind of thin those divisions are, and when you are looking that good with a decent record against decent opponents, you're probably most likely going to get called up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her in the UFC anytime soon. Her opponent, probably not as highly credentialed, but still, she's 6-3. She's still fairly experienced. It's one to watch. It's O'Neill's first MMA fight outside of Australia, so that's going to make it a little bit more interesting. See if jet lag has a play or anything like that, or how long she's been in the UAE. But her opponent's not really fought anyone I know. She was on the. Actually, do you remember the fighter EFC?
I've tried to do an ultimate. Yeah, but I never actually watched it.
They had, I think, I don't know how many seasons they had, but I remember she was on season 2 for the she lost in the first round and went out, and that was it. That was the last I ever heard of her. But it wasn't the greatest TV show in the world. It was basically a rip off The Ultimate Fighter. And
yes, I remember the off of The Ultimate Fighter. They've got their whole promotion, the banners, the logo in his UFC.
It's mad. Yes, they had that as well. I remember in the first what was it, the first season they had Will Fleury with some awful referee in the team. It was crazy. So I remember, so I didn't really have high hopes, but she was in season 2. She was also the WMMAA runner-up back in 2017, I think it was. So she got some amateur credentials, so she's got a silver medal there. They, for those who don't know, they are now affiliated. They're now kind of joined with IMAF and for holding all the world championships. But well, that's kind of it.
We haven't said our name yet, so our name's Christina Stelio. We both just referred to her as the Greek kiddo. Did you say it?
I did at the start, yeah.
But she, as you said, she's 6-3. The thing that I noticed though from her record is of all 6 opponents she's beat, none of them have ever got a pro win before fighting her. So all of them either debuted or had a losing record and no wins. So don't know, fancy her chances. But Casey O'Neill, if you do happen to see this, I'm putting it all on you to make it to the UFC and get us that UFC match back. I've been waiting for so long now. All the rumours come out and everything. Still not happened. So Casey O'Neill, it's on you. Get us that UFC Glasgow.
Bring MMA back to Scotland.
Get that hashtag going.
Yeah.
And then the other one, the only non-European one we've got from this, we're not biased at all. We don't just watch European MMA. We have this American one that chuck in. The Titan FC main event is Titan FC 64, should I say. And the main event of that is for the title. And it's Said, I'm going to say Said, just because that's how it looks. Said Soma versus Bobby Brents. And what do you think of making this one?
Soma's been fairly active. He's only got 2 fights this year. It's kind of all the pressure. I think you were saying yesterday to me, he's kind of all the pressure is on this guy, like, because he seems to be the one. Like, he's the up and coming heavyweight. He's a bit younger. He's less experienced. He's kind of he'd be one they're tipping to go to the UFC. He's won his 2 fights already this year, and this is probably the most experienced guy he's going to come up against yet. Like Brent's he's a big lad. He can hit hard, but he's fought everywhere. I think he was the Shamrock FC champ. He's fought in ACB. He's fought bare knuckle most recently. He won as well, and he's fought in Bellator as well. So he's been around the block. He knows he's an experienced guy. He's fought in some high level, in some big promotions. So I think this is going to be a tough fight for Soma. But I think I love watching heavyweights, and heavyweights aren't insane no matter what. So I think this one's going to be.
The notes that I wrote down for Soma, I wrote down that he doesn't look like your typical heavyweight because he looks like he's absolutely carved from stone. He is ripped to shreds. And then I wrote down about Bobby Brents. He does look like your typical heavyweight, so maybe not. Maybe he doesn't have quite the same physique about him. But Bobby Brents, 17-7 versus Soma. That's 5-1. Big difference. Soma's trained out of American top team. He lost his pro debut, but he's on a 5-fight win streak. So what's a momentum, what's a confidence there? But when you look through Bobby Brents, there's so many names that he's fought, and especially as a heavyweight, it can be quite hard to get that. Jared Rothschild, Chase Bromley, Daniel Omilanchuk. I could say that one easily. Daniel Omilanchuk, and he fought a little up and comer once upon a time of Stipe Miocic. So he's been around, back. I think Miocic was like 7-0 or something like that.
Oh, he did. I have it there back in 2011.
He's fought in ACB and Bellator. Actually, he's got the little bit of Cage Warriors experience in there as well. Back when they used to go to Jordan, fought DJ Linderman. Actually, was supposed to fight him in BKB. The opposite of BJJ. He was supposed to fight him in bare knuckle recently. So yeah, he's been around the block. He's got some good experience, and but I think Titan are going to be full steam ahead on wanting Soma to take this one.
Oh, you imagine so, considering he's the up and comer. He's the younger of the two. Like Brent's is 38 now, and he's been around since what year? I'm gonna scroll down here and see what he's been around since. He made a pro debut in 2003. So I think in terms of value moving forward, they're probably going to be hoping that Soma wins. But this is, it's a big test and it's a good one. So looking forward to it. Next up, what we got. So I think, this is the one that I added in. I was saying to you, I was like, it's a dark horse. Let me explain. We're going to move on to Infusion. So Infusion are they're back with events at the moment. So they're back with MMA events as well as a few kickboxing. So they're mixing bouts between MMA, kickboxing to all the one. They had an amateur show recently as well. But they added this English heavyweight onto onto the card, and that is Rob Lamont, and he's fighting Tadev. Lamont is the one that stood out for me because I was thinking, okay, everyone wants to watch the heavyweights, but not only that, he's 6'8", he's huge, and he's got this background. I was looking up for some of his previous fights, thinking, oh my God, he's a boxer. I was like, why isn't his record on BoxRec? So he's a semi-pro boxer, and he fought for the EBF title, I think it was, but he fought. Who he fought for the EBF title is probably, you'll know the second name, but you won't know the first. So it's Lee Froch. And funny enough, Carl Froch's brother fought him in semi-pro boxing for a title. I think he lost. But yeah, who doesn't want to see a 6'8" former semi-pro boxer turned pro MMA and take on a lad who's got, I think it's 10 fights, that's on a 3-fight win streak?
Yeah, that'll be a crazy fight anyway. It's probably a good, maybe edging on that freak show kind of thing. But yeah, look, anything at 6'8", I'm always going to be interested in watching. And there's a little one that will be a little bit under the radar, but I have seen some stirrings of it on Twitter the last day. It's a fight that's in Poland's promotion, Babilon MMA 16. 16 being the event name, not the promotion name. And they've got a fighter called Daniel Rutkowski. He's 10-2, and his name just kind of came across my radar. I'm not too sure why, but I had a look at him. They looked really good. Great wrestling. He's absolutely stacked. This guy could easily be in the ACA started divisions with how much muscles he's got on muscles. And yeah, he recently won it. Probably the thing that stands out most to him is Babylon and FEN, which is a big known Polish promotion. They had a little cross promotion recently, and in that fight, he defended his Babylon featherweight title and happened to win the FEN title at the same time. So really impressive thing from him. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of these guys at all, but yeah, this is a really, really under the radar fight that I was thinking that worth pointing out.
I was actually looking at that fight because it's kind of, I remember when I was just researching, I was scrolling through Tapology and I found them and I came across them thinking, wow, this guy's been fairly active. Like he's undefeated since 2016. He fought on Bama back in the day. Bama got RIP. And he beat Dylan Logan, who's now in Bellator and doing pretty well fighting out at SBG. And he just seems to be just excel. I think Alan Murphy was putting it on Twitter recently as well. One to keep an eye on. Yeah, he looks solid. I think he could, most likely you could see him winning this one, but he's got a bit of a task ahead of him first. I'm not exactly sold on his opponent. His record doesn't speak wonders for him. But it's one of those fights. If he can pull off a win against Rutkowski, it's going to be quite a major upset.
Yeah, Rene Runge fought, or Runge, one or the other. All of these names are going to be like this. When we watch highlights on these, they're always going to be in a different language anyway, so you don't even know which part is the naming experience. When they make it to UFC, we're all sorted. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Zabit Magomed-Sharapov, we can say that all day long, but these names, not as experienced in. But he's fought his whole career in Germany so far. He's 9-3. I did have a look at him. It looks like he can grapple and strike, so he has a little bit of a balance here. But his levels of opponent so far weren't that high. He did lose his last time out, but that was a big step up, and this looks to be a big step up again.
It's a huge step up. You're looking at a guy who could probably be, do you know, I could see him you could see him in KSW, you could see him competing in KSW, but you could also see him, pushing for a UFC if he kind of keeps up this kind of level of activity and fighting guys who are probably a little bit higher, a little bit more not talent, but more experience, who've a bit more higher level is probably the best way of putting it. You could see him competing with those guys and potentially making to the UFC, but I think KSW would be a fantastic place for him in future. But this one should be good.
KSW is a really good shout for you because he's beat Lucas Rajewski, who's I think is on like a 2-fight win streak or something like that in KSW. I recently chucked some rankings together for KSW, and I think I've got Rajewski something about 10th in that division. So definitely he's beat some quality guys in KSW. So I'd say a win here, definitely going to have him on our radar. And that is when I scroll back up to see the name of the person we're talking about. That's Daniel Rutkowski. So yeah, keep an eye out for him. If he does win this one, I'm thinking he's going to be on to some bigger things after it. And I'm also annoyed at Alan Murphy. We were supposed to record this yesterday, and he posted today. I could have beat you to it. I could have pretended I had better Polish MMA knowledge, but nope. Alan, the master of Polish MMA.
To be honest, not even Polish MMA, man. He's got knowledge of so much. I think it's it's so underappreciated how much knowledge he has. Like between Spain, like he's got Spain with AFL. Now he's with Aries. He's got knowledge of so many different areas. But Poland in particular, he just if you need any information in terms of like certain fighters, especially fighting for KSW, he's fantastic for it. He got amazing knowledge. Yeah, should be a pretty good fight that one. But going from one lightweight fight to another, there's a lot of lightweights today. I just realized, my God, that is stacked. That weight division is stacked in general. But we're going to go to Fight Nights Global, one I actually didn't realize was happening until I had to scroll through Tapology and saw it. But for the lightweight titles on the line, so it's Nariman Abasov versus Mikhail Gogetidze. I hope I got that one right. I was practicing that one. I was looking that one up for Georgie because one of the main reasons this one stood out to me is I saw George and I'm like, you know what, George has been phenomenal for MMA recently, and he's been getting me so interested in it that I had to put this one in.
For sure, yeah, definitely. And as you said, lightweight is absolutely stacked. They came back at kind of out of nowhere Fight Night Global. I'm pretty sure they did that. They were involved in the
Guerrilla Fight Championship.
Nurmagomedov Memorial, which was an amazing card, but that was like a combined one and stuff like that, so it wasn't them. They did come back last weekend, and I wouldn't say the quality was the highest in the world, but it was a good event, well presented, everything worked well, so good to see them back. But yeah, as you were saying, Nariman Abasov, I think he is probably the one you're looking at a little harder here. 8-fight win streak. Hasn't he's 23-3, and 2 of those losses came in his first 4 fights, and he's fought an absolute fantastic level of opponents throughout his career.
He's only 26 as well, and he's got 27 fights. It's insane. That's because insane. His activity's it's just quite crazy really when you look at it. But that's the thing with Russian MMA. They're just constantly fighting. There's events on every weekend. It's amazing to see, because if you look, there's always going to be a Russian event on. There's of some sort. But this is actually a rematch as well. So these two fought back in 2018. I watched it yesterday. It was a fairly brutal knockout for Abasov. But
definitely big knee, if I'm correct, wasn't it? Big knee and ground and pound.
That's the one. Oh, it was
the one.
Vicious, man. He's one of those. So he's just one of those fighters. Yeah, obviously, don't think did he defend? Yeah, did he defend it? No, he won the title in his last fight, and now he's set to defend it. So it's probably it's one he's kind of Abasov experienced before, but for Gogetidze, I think it's, if he wins here, it's a massive statement for him, and he avenges that loss, which is probably a tough one to take, especially because it's kind of a highlight reel one in a sense.
Yeah, Gogetidze, the weird thing with him is he has fought 6 times since that loss, so he's got some hours under him. But he is coming off a loss into this one as well, so I'm not entirely sure why Fight Night Global have decided to give him a title shot coming into this, especially in somebody he's lost to before, and considering that he's coming off a loss. The level of competition is huge here as well. 14-8 for Gogetidze, but even the level of competition is much lower for him. So it is going to be definitely an uphill battle from the absolute get-go of this one, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for him to come back from, especially after losing last time. So Abasov might already have the read of him as is. So I'm interested to see how this one turns out. But obviously, I'll have to lean towards Abasov in terms of how it's going to go. But Georgie has me really, really interested in Georgian MMA.
Yeah, it's just every main event seems to be Georgian these days, whether it's LFA, whether it's Dana White's Contender Series, just taking over.
Global. Yeah, they're everywhere. It's amazing how it's boomed. And he's kind of come along with it as well. It's really, really nice to see. What we got next? So we're going to go for, I think we'll do the best for last, in my opinion.
European Series. We're back.
Yes.
Finally time. We've been waiting for this for how long?
Too long. Like, I remember looking at that Dublin event thinking, I don't think that's happening, but please come back soon.
Yeah. They to be fair, I think they have done everything they said when we were coming out. Once Bellator done this European Series, we all got terrified. They barely get fights for people as it is. We see them swooping up everybody from the whole Alabama, basically clean that company out, stab them in the back where they stood. Took everybody from the whole European scene. But it's only the 8th European Series event we've got. But of course, coronavirus happened. Can't really blame them too much for it. They were going in phases, and I think they've been all right. But yeah, what about that Fabian Edwards, Costello Van Steenis fight? That's an absolute bomb of a fight.
Do you know what? I'm going to leave that one to last because I really like that fight.
I know you're big on this one next, and actually this didn't jump out to me as much as everything else, so I'll let you introduce us to this one.
Go on, we'll go for it. It's Nicolo Soli against Hardwick. This one is probably going to be, I picked this one out. I think this is mainly because I've seen both of them fight. I watched that fight with Hardwick and Caoilte where he beat Richard Caoilte last time out, and I think I watched his fight against Madras Flaminas as well where he lost that one, but he looked good.
That was Cage Warriors, if I'm correct. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, and he what stood out probably the most is because when I was looking at his record, I was thinking, I remember these two fights, but they were heavier. This one's at lightweight, so he's been fighting at he fought at 175 catchweight in his last fight, and then he's been fighting at welterweight as well. So he's been, he's very happy to fight up a weight class, but now he's dropping down to light. That's a big drop, and that could take its toll considering he's traveling over to Italy. It's a fight that's on relatively short notice from what we know anyway, and it's against Sully, who is a massive. I'm really, really high on him. He's a great prospect, and it's a huge step up in competition for him. I was at his last fight in Milan. He's so good. It's just he's wild, but he's in the best way possible. He's really well rounded. He can strike, and he's quite good striker. But when it goes to the ground, then as well, he's just not a lad you want to be on the ground with. He can pick an arm. He can take your neck. He's very, very active. He seems to be very fit, and he loves to finish fights. He'll finish it anywhere it goes. For that reason alone, I think that this one is probably worthy of being in here. What do you think from what you've seen?
He's an Italian fighter from right Sully, yeah?
Yep.
So
he trains at SBG, actually. You're
adding them in for that Alzolino retweet there, are you, to get that Italian fighter added in for this card? I was surprised when you said this. You put a lot of, I'm putting this pressure on you. This was a 3-0 fighter versus, I think, a 5-1 fighter. So out of this is a fantastic card we've got coming up for Bellator. It's absolutely outstanding. I'm even thinking of watching that instead of the early UFC parts, just because so many good ones. And you've put a lot of hype on this one. I think it would be going under the radar a little bit. So if this turns out to be an absolute war, like you're putting across to me, you might just come out of this looking like the genius of this.
I'll be honest. I don't think it's going to be an all-out war, but I do think it's going to be like
skill.
I'm just getting the card up as well. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think it could, because no matter where it goes, it's going to be really competitive. And like Sully is a huge lightweight. I think he's 6'2", 6'3". He's 6'2". It's crazy for a lightweight. He's huge, and he's just like there's limbs everywhere when you're on the mat. When you're on the mat with him from the looks of it. I think it was the last fight he got a triangle choke. Against Dan Castle, he looks fantastic. But this one now, I don't know how I can see it going. What are you thinking?
Yeah, as you said, I think probably Sully would be where I'd be edging it, just because he is looking like such a massive prospect. But George, as you said, he's been in there. He's fought some tough guys. Richard Caoilte was a guy with some hype behind him for one reason or another.
I like Richard.
Yeah, George Hardwick. Yeah, well, maybe not the level of hype that he had at that moment in time. What was it, 2-1 or something like that against MVP?
Fighting MVP.
Yeah. So hopefully he bounces back well. But so that's a great scalp for Hardwick to have picked up there. That's probably, you could even argue that's the best of both of them. So yeah, it's going to be a huge fight for whoever comes out of this, especially after they're already gripping some attention just looking at the card like this. Then yeah, whoever comes out the winner, that one's going to be a big deal, I think.
100%. I think it's either or if that Bellator will be able to use them it will be able to market them really well, and I think they'll be more than capable of kind of pushing into that division a bit further and actually climbing the rankings. There's not really Bellator rankings, but climbing the rankings in terms of higher level opponents in their future fights. All right, on to our last fight.
you've added some hype to it now because you left it off to the last. But of course,
I love this fight.
The level of this fight is absolutely insane.
Oh, it's amazing. So, do you want to intro this one in?
Yeah, sure. Well, the one thing I want to point out is that Fabian Edwards needs more respect, and I'm putting this directly on you, Google, because if you go and Google right now, Fabian Edwards, it doesn't come up martial artist, it doesn't come up mixed martial artist or Bellator fighter, it comes up, and this isn't a lie at all, Leon Edwards' brother. That's what comes up when you Google Fabian Edwards, so it's a little recommended search. So he's 9-0. He's charging towards the top of that Bellator division. Put some respect in his name, Google. But yeah, absolutely tremendous fighter. He's been, basically since he kicked off in MMA, he's been an absolute superstar. It's easy to look at someone like Leon Edwards and think, like, to make that connection. But Fabian Edwards isn't out here in his brother's shadow by any means. He's absolutely trailblazing his own path. He's been fantastic since he started. Looks great in the ground. The sharpness of his techniques is absolutely crazy. Like, it's just the explosiveness to go from the target and the speed he does it is absolutely insane.
He's undefeated since, I think he was undefeated as an amateur as well, wasn't he? Undefeated all the way through amateur, and he's still undefeated. The guy just can't be beat.
Yeah, beat the likes of, even he was so young in his career when he fought Lee Chadwick as well. And Lee Chadwick's got tons of experience, and Fabian Edwards goes in, puts him away, beats Mike Shipman as well. Some massive names in his record. Yeah,
he's taken out like all the way through Bama. I remember when he was fighting on Bama, I was like, oh, he has to get a title shot. This lad he's better than the entire division. And then obviously Bama went under, and he's in Bellator now, and he got signed to Bellator, and he's just thrived. Like, realistically, he's probably the best bet for bringing a title shot back to the UK soon. Yeah. Maybe MVP as well, but I think he's a really good shout for bringing a title shot to a UK card sometime soon. He's as I said, he's lethal. He's well able to finish his opponents. He's been good. His last fight against Shipman looked solid. It was only a split decision, but still won the fight. Looked good. He's no slouch either. But I think what makes this fight even better is the level of opponent he's fighting in Costello Van Steenis.
Well, we're talking about Mike Shipman there. Van Steenis has also beat Mike Shipman, so he's also got the win over the same guy. Beat Chris Honeycutt, who's a bit of a long-term veteran of Bellator, if I'm correct. So a really good guy. Something that I thought he is coming off of is only his second loss, and I thought it was a funny one just seeing his first loss. Anybody who's a UK MMA fan knows, especially back in the UC MMA days. Bostwick is who he lost to. Was it Jack or Jake Bostwick? It's a bit of a random guy to. Yeah, I wrote Jack down here, and I was pretty sure it was Jake. That's what threw me off there. Yeah, Jake Bostwick. Bit of a random guy in there. UC MMA legend. You don't see too many people from back in those days popping up in big records anymore. Costello Van Steenis, so yeah, absolutely awesome. Can do a bit of everything. He can finish fights from any sort of thing as well. Yeah, absolute top level. And I'd say this would be probably Fabian Edwards' toughest opponent so far.
I would have to agree, because I was watching some of Costello Van Steenis last night. He loves that right hand. He reached with it. He really throws all his power and it tries to knock you out. And then when it goes to the mat, I remember someone I was watching. Which fight was it? Was it the Fryer fight? Oh, I can't remember now. Where he was someone went for a heel hook, and he just reverses it instantly. It was amazing. He was so calm, collected. He was well able to deal with guys on the ground, and he loves being on top. When he gets on top, he just starts raining down some ground and pound. He's vicious, just non-stop. Go for it. And you have a guy who's lethal on top. He's really good. He's good in the feet. And he likes to knock guys out against Fabian Edwards, who's probably just as well rounded and well able to match Van Steenis. It's just kind of clashed the Titans in a sense, and probably one of the best fights this weekend. Cage Warriors has some fantastic fights, but probably it's worthy of a headliner, this one now. I'm really, really enjoying this. Really enjoying this fight being booked, and I'm buzzing to see it.
I don't know if I fancy Van Steenis necessarily going for them, because I think it was Fabian Edwards. It's a little bit a while ago. I'm talking Bama time, so it might be remember it wrong. Am I right in saying Fabian Edwards got dropped pretty badly in one of his earliest fights and then instantly submitted the guy as soon as he got rocked? It was like he got rocked, then the other guy jumped in for it, and then Edwards submitted him in seconds or something like that. So we don't necessarily see that from him constantly as such a powerful striker, someone that's got so much skill in that area. But I don't think he's definitely no slouch when you're coming to, if you take him down. I don't know if I fancy your chances there either. No. So how do you see this one going then?
I think Fabian Edwards is like he's just constantly on the rise. He looks better every fight. I see him edging it. I think it could go the distance. It's what, 3-round main event? Yeah, 3-round main event. Could probably see it going the distance. Maybe not a split, but it should be. Could either be wild or it could be back and forth. His potential for all sorts. But I'm hoping it's a bit of a wild fight. To be honest, I think it's gonna be really, really good. But yeah, I'm gonna go Fabian Edwards.
Killer lineup of fights this week. Just so many absolute bangers. Fabian Edwards, Van Steenis is definitely one to stand out with. But yeah, so that's all your top fights, I think, that we're looking at this week. There's 10 of them. You've also got Cage Warriors in there. That'll be a whole separate thing we've got going on, because that's why notable omission. We'll add that into another video on MMA relates throughout the week. But yeah, do you want to close us off there, Caoilte?
Yeah, we've had some pretty good fights. Looking forward to everything happening this weekend between these Cage Warriors and the UFC. So yeah, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe as well. We're currently trying to get 10k followers. You can give myself a follow on Twitter at Caoilte and you can give Gary a follow on Twitter at Europe MMA. I'm pretty sure you still have it that way.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And just to add in the description down below, we'll add links to how you can watch some of these. Some of them are going to be on YouTube, especially the next day, so plenty of ways to watch them.